Good morning, everyone. So this study and the idea of the study starts with something that every one of us experience, mainly in this period of conference, because I think pretty much all of us are spending all our meal in restaurant for both lunch and dinner, and usually this is what is happening. So theoretically, we are in this type of environment in which we are trying to possibly having a work meeting with someone in this type of environment. And what is happening to our voice and what we are doing, how much we are influenced by the Lombard effect in this type of environment. So following the indication of Zagat, from a survey, the 2016 National Dining Trends Survey, at the question, what irritates you most about dining out, 25% of the respondents say noise. And the first one was actually the service. Every time I presenting this study, I used to say that those people were not in Europe or in Italy, because if they are complaining for the service in the US, I mean, it's better if they are not going to eat out in Europe. However, what happened in the restaurant? We know that in the restaurant there are several sources of noise. There are several research that showed which are the typical level of noise present in a restaurant, and we know that the level are ranging between 60 dBA to 80 dBA. There are also some researches that are showing even higher level, till 96, I read in some of the paper, but they were coming from dining and restaurant journal, so I don't know if I want to trust them. In any case, we know that when we are in a noisy environment, we are increasing the level of our speech. This is a well-known effect. It's called Lombard effect. It has been studied in the last 100 years, and we know that the slope at which we are increasing the level of our voice with the increasing level of noise in the environment is ranging between 0.3 to 0.7 dB per dB, and is changing according to the boundary conditions. So if we are asking the participants to read a text instead of speaking, if we are using a different type of noise in the experiment, if we are using a speech noise, a white noise, a pink noise, it depends by the style of the speech that we are using. If we are asking the subject, the participants, to have a normal voice level or to shout, it depends strongly by the distance between the speaker and the listener, and is also depending by the room acoustics. So we know that in a restaurant setting, the Lombard effect is due more to the intensity of conversation held by the patrons rather than the other background noise. And this is the results from Astolfi et al. From 2003. Another interesting result, there are not a lot of studies on restaurant noise. I mean, there are very few of them. And Astolfi et al. Was one of the paper on the topic. And in 2012, Rindel from Denmark, he suggested that the acoustical capacity in the restaurant setting is mainly associated with the disturbance in the communication. Other study from Novak in 2010 and Olsen, very old, from 2017, they figured out and they proved that moving out from a comfortable range of noise that is allowing the communication is decreasing the business for the establishment. So it's very important to understand which is the level of noise that we need to have in a restaurant to improve the communication in the restaurant. But at the same time, my question was, how much is influencing the level of a noise present in a restaurant, the viability, the willingness to spend money and time to eat in that place. So specifically about the Lombard effect in restaurant, there are just two studies. One is from Tang et al. From 1997, and the second one is from Ogson from 2007. Both of those studies, though, are not performing direct measurement of the Lombard effect, but they are using statistical model to estimate the starting point of the Lombard effect in restaurant noise and the Lombard slope in a restaurant setting. So the starting point for the Lombard effect in a restaurant noise was found to be at 69 dBA, while the slope was found to be 0.69 dB per dB. Again, both of these results are based on estimation and were not directly measured. So the research question of the study were, is there a change point in the level of the noise for the Lombard effect in a restaurant setting? Is there a change point for the self-reported communication disturbance, and how does this relate to that for the Lombard effect? And the last one is there an effect of the background noise level on the time and on the budget we would spend in a restaurant? So how we did it? We did in a laboratory setting. We tried to recreate as much as we could a restaurant scene with a table, a tablecloth, and we have a research assistant sit on the other side of the table. We asked the participants, we had 28 participants equally distributed by gender. For a conveniency, we used college student, but we are planning to replicate the study with different age population. They were all audiometrically assessed and were normal hearing students, no smoker students. We asked them to read the first 30 seconds, the first 6 sentences of the Rainbow Passage, and we asked them to repeat the task 11 times, and in each condition, we changed the level of the noise, ranging from 35 dBA till 85 dBA, with an increment of 5 dB. Now, the condition of the noise were randomized and were different for every participant. So it was not in order, the increasing of the noise, but everyone received the level of the noise randomized. The noise used was the one that we heard at the beginning of the presentation. Typical noise restaurant without music, though. After each presentation of the condition of the noise, we asked them to rate in a visual analog scale 3 questions. The first one, please rate the amount of your communication disturbance, please rate the amount of the communication disturbance you perceived between not at all and extremely. So we asked them to place a bar on a visual analog scale. The second question was, how long would you enjoy to stay at this restaurant? And the third one was, how much of your budget would you spend in this restaurant? Let's talk a little bit about statistics. The type of analysis that I perform on the data is called segmented linear model. Why I use a segmented linear model? For different reasons. The first reason was that my hypothesis was looking for a change point. So if I'm looking for a change point in my regression, I'm looking for 2 regression lines that are optimizing my data and they are meeting in one point. This is the only condition. I haven't given any suggestion about where to look for that breakpoint. So it's iterational methodology that is looking for all the possible linear regression and is applying only the condition that the 2 lines needs to meet in one point. So I used this model because it was my hypothesis, but I also compared it with a normal linear model and with a quadratic model. And in any case, the segmented model appeared to be the best one in terms of quality of the fit. How I can be sure that in the recorded signal, there is the level of the noise is negligible. Of course, I used a head-mounted microphone. It was a cardioid microphone. I was recording the voice of the speakers of the participant with an head-mounted microphone, but in that room there was also the noise because I was playing 85 dB, in the worst condition, 85 dB of restaurant noise. However, I performed a statistical analysis to verify that the level of noise was negligible in the microphone compared to the level of voice. So in every condition, I had at least a signal-to-noise ratio of 21 dB. So that's good. That's guaranteeing me that if I'm evaluating the level of the voice, the noise present in that signal is negligible. So I'm okay with that. Why I use the segmented model? Because it's the best model in this case, I'm showing one example. I don't know, is there a point? Yeah. In this case, I'm plotting the residual for the sound pressure level. And as you can see, if I'm using a normal linear model, I have a pattern, which means that I'm doing something wrong. Instead, if I'm using a segmented model, the distribution of my residual is random. So that's what I want. So let's talk about the results. This is the objective data, so the sound pressure level emitted by the speakers in every condition. So as you can see, I had 28 subjects. These are the single results for each subject. I performed a normalization. So as you can see here on the axis, I have a delta SPL. So for every subject, I have considered the average value among all the conditions, and I subtracted that average from every condition. So basically, if I am summing all the value of a single subject all over the 11 condition, the sum will be 0. Okay? So that was just creating a relative SPL centered on the behavior of that participant. In this way, I'm taking out all the variability associated with the individual. Okay, the model is telling me that there is a breakpoint, and the breakpoint is at 57.3 dBA, which means that after that breakpoint, there is an increase of, with a slope of 0.6, which is similar to the one indicated by Hodgson by his simulation. And it's typical for the Lombard effect. Before, there is a slight increase in the level of the voice with the noise, but is half of the slope. So we can say that there is still an effect, but is not as strong as after 57.3. Let's go to the subjective data. So again, this is the disturbance perceived in percentage from a visual analog scale. I apply the same type of modeling, and at 52.2 dBA, there is a breakpoint. After this breakpoint, the level of disturbance is increasing dramatically. So we can say that people are starting to be annoyed by the noise in a restaurant, and they think that the communication is started to be impaired for level of noise higher than 52 dBA. Let's talk about money and time. This is the willingness to spend time, and this is the willingness to spend a percentage of their budget to eat in that place. And as you can see, there is a larger variability here, but pretty much they are between 50 and 55 dB. There is a break point for the regression where people are starting to, they want to leave, basically. So, and again, there is also associated with it the willingness to spend less money to eat in that place. Now, if you're looking them together, we can see that the disturbance in the communication, the time that we are willing to spend, and the money that we are willing to spend are pretty much lay down on the same level of noise, or on the same range of noise between 50 and 55 dBA. And there is also this other relationship that is interesting, because apparently participants start to be disturbed by the presence of the noise at 52 dB, and because they perceive that the communication is disturbed, they are automatically starting to increase the level of their voice. So, conclusion, is there a change point in the level of the noise of the Lombard, for the Lombard effect in a restaurant setting? And answer is yes, there is a change point, and it is at 57 dBA. And the Lombard effect is 2 times stronger after this level of noise, from 0.3 dB per dB to 0.6 dB per dB. And is there a change point for the self-reported communication disturbance, and how does this relate to that for the Lombard effect? So talker begins to be disturbed by noise level at 52 dBA, and because they are disturbed, they are perceiving the disturbance in the communication, they start to raise their voice. So talker begin to strongly increase their speech level at 57 dBA. Is there an effect of background noise level on time and on budget we spend in a restaurant? Yes, in restaurants with background noise level higher than 52 dBA, customers tend to spend less time in that restaurant, and customers tend to spend less money in that restaurant. So Thank you for your attention, and my lab is currently looking for a PhD student, so if you are interested in room acoustic and how room acoustics is affecting, noise and room acoustics are affecting speech perception and speech production, please contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Pasquale. Yes, question.
That was a really nice presentation. I think the maybe this is more of a comment than a question, but I'll try and turn it into a question. Do you think it might be possible to tease apart the negative response to having to listen in noise versus the negative response to having to speak in noise? Because I could imagine that those could map onto the same response, but they could also be different, right?
May I come down? Because honestly, the loudspeakers are in that direction, and you cannot hear anything on the stage. Yeah, can you repeat it?
Yeah. So the question was whether you might be able to tease apart a difference between, or maybe there's a different breakpoint for tolerance for listening in noise versus having to speak in noise. Because speaking in noise is physically more effortful, but maybe listening in noise is cognitively more effortful. So
definitely. Definitely. This study was not at all thought about the listening, but I can think about it for the future. The goal in this case was target to understand. Because, I mean, the idea started because everyone is going to a restaurant, and I think it happened to everyone, that at the end of your night, I can use the microphone, or I can, at the end of your night, you are feeling your throat that is sore, and you don't really know why, and mainly if you are a professional voice user and you would like to take care of it, you are ending up not going anymore in loud place on in restaurant. And I have a lot of professional singer friend, that are actually, they cannot go to restaurant because of this. And so, and there is a lot of attention on the problem.
Really nice talk. So one of the things that I was thinking about, which I think relates to Alex's question, is how does the communication partner change the Lombard effect? So for example, if everything sort of stayed the same, but you have a communication partner who, they look like they're struggling, or the characteristics they bring to the dyad, how might that influence the Lombard effect?
Definitely it will, and that's why we control for it. So we use the same, we had two different research assistants working on the project, and we had a third one that was part of the project, but because she was not a English speaker, first language English speaker, she was not in the room. We never. So, but in the future we can add, for example, this factor in the analysis, and at that point we can use, I can go, I'm a second language speaker, so clearly.
Okay. Would you accept comments as well as questions?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Many years ago, I was a consultant on a job for the Access Board. They had decided they were trying to help elderly people, and so they have many more lawyers and engineers. Anyway, they decided that elderly people, it was a civil right for them to be able to eat in restaurants, and that was being denied to them by noisy restaurants. So that was their interest. But it also appeared that elderly people were more bothered by that noise because of their hearing. Another one is there's an effect like that with children, particularly very young children too. And so cafeterias, these terrible noisy cafeterias are really pertinent to that. A third, there's a social aspect to this. This is conjecture now, so it's anecdotal, that particularly in singles bars, not that I attend them, but there's a social effect, a comfortable communication distance, and it differs culturally. In Northern Europe, it's very far apart, And in southern European countries like Italy, it's in your face. And so one of the problems in single bars is the distance the person can come to his target.
May I answer quickly? So I am planning in the spring semester. I have already a student that is going to work on a replication of the study with the elder population. And the reason that I need a specific student for it, because I need to control for hearing loss. And so this student is a doctoral student in audiology. So I need a specific competency to have a more deep, for college student, you are just doing an hearing screening. Pretty much everyone is healthy, but with elder population, I need an audiologist. And I found it. Her.
Hi, thanks. I found that very interesting, your presentation. One thing I'd just ask is, were your researchers instructed to just be stony-faced and not respond to what the person was saying, even if they were talking too quietly? Because, you know, when I'm talking to someone, particularly in a loud restaurant, I take a lot of visual cues from them. They're squinting, they're cocking their head to one side. Your researchers, did they, you know, if they weren't understanding what the person was saying because they were talking too quietly, did they give them any visual clues?
So the instruction that I gave them, I gave the same instruction to all the participants, and so the instruction was, please read this text to me like if you are telling me something personal. Something more that I want to add is that all the participants were friends of the research assistant. And so there was already an intimacy between the participant and the research assistant. So I tried to create, as much as I could, a really scenario with a restaurant. And of course, honestly, in my opinion, one of the biggest limitations of the study, and because no one is bringing it up, I will bring it up for myself, is the privacy issue. Because in that situation, the two people were in a sound booth. Yes, there was the tablecloth, there was the light. We tried to create everything nice, but however, there were not other people. And that definitely will change the situation. So now,
Let's take one more question.
I was going to ask a similar question. So we're very visually oriented, so especially related to the amount of money a person might be willing to spend, I suspect that there are visual design cues that might elevate that number. People might want to spend more time in a space or more money in a space visually, even when their ears don't agree with that situation. More of a thought, I guess, than a question, but.
I have also some thought about that. The result is that my study was done with college students, and the average price that they want to spend for a meal was $10. That was the question, one of the questions of the survey. So that's why I want to move with elder people and with young professionals, because I need people that are willing to spend more money. Otherwise, restaurant noise will be not a problem for the business. $10 is not enough.
One last question before we take a break.
Thank you, Pasquale. I have a question that is an instinctive question based on your result, but also on your background that you presented. So you presented that anyway, the average noise level in the restaurants can reach 80 dB. So the question is, why people do go to the restaurant? And because of the food, I think, because of the food quality. So I think that there is, apart from the friends that you can have in the restaurant. So I think that one of your future research could be, could insert also this effect that I think that is one of the most important.
I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I think that there is a huge cultural gap here. So as Italian, you are mentioning the fact that people are going mainly to a restaurant for the food. I will tell you that probably if you are in the US, people are mainly going to a restaurant to drink or to a social hub to have drinks. So there are social differences, but I agree. As you know, because we are going to do it together. She's my PhD supervisor, though. She's asking me questions since the beginning. You will always be. So we are planning to collaborate with a colleague of mine from Michigan State University. She's working in economy and in developing model for customer behavior and choice of customer, how they are influenced by different factors. So she's going to develop a research plan with us with different type of menu and understanding how people are choosing a menu in function of the noise in the restaurant.
This is another anecdotal report. You may be onto something here, because I've read reports that food tastes better in a quiet environment.
But I have an answer. Unfortunately, there is also another study that it's a survey that is reporting that people are drink more when there is more noise.